Welcome back to Round of the Bases, Extra Innings. Joel Goldberg, Theresa Garza. If you have not listened to the audio portion of our interview, check it out wherever you get your podcasts. It is a worthwhile listen, and we covered a lot in terms of her current role with Spire, with running for office right now, her family background, her Navy background. So let's start there. 4 final questions as we round the bases. First one, best and worst part about being on a ship like you were?
Space. Definitely space. Especially
that's the worst part, I assume.
Yes, worst part. Like especially for like shoes and clothes. There's not room for all that. Best is just that, again, you create it like your own family. It's a very close knit, whether it's a ship or a duty station or whatever, you're creating your family away from family with your military, colleagues and in your unit.
Mm-hmm. Truly a unique experience. Of course, there's nothing like home, and you've been back home here now for a long time. What is it about this city, this area, that you have grown up in and come back to and served and will continue to serve, whether that means, over in Raytown winning election or not? Look, whatever you win, lose, or whatever it is, I hope you win. You're always going to serve your community. I know that's who you are, but what's the best part about being here in your hometown?
Like you said, it's home. These are where my roots are, right? I mean, I was born and raised here. My family's here. This is who helped define me and helped me to grow as a person is the Kansas City area. And so being able to come back, being able to be home with all of that is what drives me to keep giving back to it.
A third question as we round the bases. We talked in the audio portion of the podcast about knocking on doors. It's something that you have to do. Well, you don't have to as politicians, probably something you should do, certainly in terms of local. And I've got to imagine that's kind of a mixed bag, right? You don't always know what you're walking into. You got some people that are probably really happy to talk to you and some people that have zero interest in talking to you. Oh, I'm not answering the door. I don't know who this person is. What is that experience like? Because I know that you love people, you love communicating, and I'm curious, some of those people, when they're not so sure they want to see you, maybe if you change their mind a little bit, whether it's voting or not, but just, hey, this woman seems very pleasant, I will talk to her, how that experience kind of goes for you.
It is kind of hit or miss, right? Is sometimes you're received very, warmly, and sometimes not. I haven't really had a situation where the people were just down out rude or mean or anything like that. They were just like, I'm busy right now. And in those cases, a lot of times we just leave a door hanger versus actually having a conversation with them. So that way they still have some information about who I am as the candidate and what my priorities are, but they haven't really talked to me. And so it just kind of hit or miss. But, and you hear, that's where you get to learn, like, what are their concerns? What do they really want to see for their city and for, their town or the area that they live in? And so that's how you really learn, I think, as an elected official. And you're right, some don't knock at all, some do. But I think that that's how you learn the most about what people want.
I mean, to me, and again, I said it in the audio portion of this podcast, I would never have an interest in running for political office, even though I'm very interested in all the politics. But it's really no different than sales. I mean, you can either go knock on doors and say, please vote for me, or you can knock on a door and say, what's on your mind? What would you like to be addressed? What could be better? I mean, in the end, if you can convince people that you're there for the right reasons, we all want to be heard. And so I'm sure you experience that all the time. Now, it's not always going to go that way, but we all want a voice. And I've got to think that if a politician's knocking on my door, not telling me what to do, but actually being willing to listen, that's got to really build a lot of good relationships.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? Because how else am I going to serve, and how else am I going to be the voice of the people I'm supposed to be representing if I don't know what their concerns are? And I think, it's twofold. Like, we try to hit the doors and, a couple of times. So the first time may just be, us doing a lit drop. And then the second time you come back and you actually talk and you're like, hey, I dropped off some information, but I wanted to hear from you. Or I have a lot of my literature, and my website has we have a landline still. We're one of the few people probably in the whole KC metro area that has a landline. And so I leave that number on all of my all the campaign stuff. So people will literally they will literally call and leave messages on the answering machine so I can call them back, and then we can have conversations on the phone. Because that's how you build that rapport. And that's how, like I said, you figure out what are their concerns, what do they really care about. And at the local level, here, especially I'm running in the Raytown area, it's nonpartisan, right? So you have to be able to have conversations with everybody and anybody and really dive down into what are the concerns and what type of solutions can we reach to address them.
Yeah, and boy, what a blessing to be involved in something that's nonpartisan. That's kind of a nice thing too, because we're so separated, and as you said multiple times, just want to try to get everybody back to the middle as much as possible. I'm in such agreement with that, and we can be on opposite sides from different things with other people, but boy, we got to be able to find some common ground. All right, last question, the walk-off. I had a bunch of ideas. I mean, one was I was going to go another route politically, but I'm not, other than just to ask you, so I'm putting off my last question. Could you ever be a politician in DC? Could you ever be a congresswoman? Could you ever live that life?
No, I don't think so. because
I didn't think so either.
It's about the community, right? I mean, that's what drives me. That's what feeds me. That's what, really feeds my energy, is that connection with people and the local component. And so I feel like DC's, I mean, not that there's not elected officials that do that, but it's a different beast, right? And it takes me away from home. And this is where I'm at.
I have no doubt you could do it. There's such a nastiness to it right now, and there's such a game to it. Like it's like one up, everything. So it just doesn't seem like your style. I mean, you're in the trenches with people, and you go back to Washington, as you said, you're further away, but there's also just this performative element right now of Congress that is a sideshow. Anyway, my walk-off question was going to be this. I also thought I could ask you about, I don't know, like a board you're on, but that would take all day because you're on a million of them. So how about this? I mean, I saw among the many, boards, Ronald McDonald House or committees, Park University Civic Advisor Council, Latino Arts Foundation, which is a great one, Greater KC Chamber of Commerce. I'm just listing them now, but I wanted to ask you about being the 2023 chair for the Jacob and Ella Luce Foundation, and what that means to you and the community and why it's so important.
Absolutely. So I just took over this year as the chair for the Luce Foundation board, which is housed out of the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation. And it's an old board, right, from the Luce family, who also gave us Luce Park. And so the last 2 years I have been really instrumental in defining what my chairmanship is going to look like. We spent a lot of work these past 2 years kind of redefining what the Luce Foundation is. So far as even going into the bylaws on certain things, like one of the bylaws actually states that it should be a prominent Kansas Citian who sits on the Luce Foundation board. Well, prominent Kansas Citian back when they established the Luce Foundation was definitely not me, right? Mm-hmm. A Latina, and so we kind of had to dig into that. And so I think moving forward, we are shifting definitely to a trust-based model, meaning that we want to ensure that the grantees that are receiving the funding from the foundation know who's also making those decisions, and that if something was to go awry with the way in which they are handling the actual grant, then they have somebody that they can say, hey, we need a little help, and we're there as a resource, not just as somebody who says yay or nay. So it's a big shift in the way in which the foundation is giving. And I'm excited to step into the chairmanship this year with this new foundation and base that we've laid over the past 2 years.
What a great, perfect fit, for you to be leading that and for the world to continue to change the way it is. And we could say that about all the millions of things that you're involved in. So I just highlighted a few of them. And with that said, we're going to wrap things up because you are a busy woman. You didn't put a cap on how much time, but I know you got about a million things going on. So I want to let you get back to all of that. again, encourage everybody to listen to the audio version of the podcast. Just excellent stuff from Theresa and everything that she's done and what's helped her get here, that family background, and all of her roots and military service. So thank you for that. Thank you for the time. And I'm looking forward to watching everything that you're doing, and know that you'll continue to do great things. Thanks, Theresa.
All right. Thanks, Jill, for having me. Appreciate it.